things like that in poker come up all the time.
You can imagine 14 trying to learn advanced mathematics or chemistry in Bulgarian. Just be vulnerable with me for 5 minutes. Like, we can have a conversation.
I'm going to challenge you a little bit here because
I think I've been called every name under the sun.
Basically, everybody is like that to a degree.
But like I said, like, life EV is what you end up with when you're 70.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Phil Galfond podcast. I am Phil Galfond. Today, I'm going to speak with Henry Kilbane, poker player, poker commentator, very cool guy. And what we spoke about is primarily, his poker career and finding his way through, what he wants to focus on in his career. The idea that I had that kind of sparked this episode, not necessarily a podcast as a whole, was that I wanted to talk to poker players who are at crossroads in their career. Whether it's, people who are thinking of dropping out of college to go pro, or people who are tournament players that want to switch to become cash players and they're weighing different factors, to really anything. And the reason that I spoke to Henry is because we had a conversation similar to this a few months ago, and I wanted to see where he was at and see if we could talk about it some more. And I think it's some pretty interesting content. I'll just leave it at that for now. If you're interested in talking to me on a podcast like this one, because you're at a crossroads in your poker career, check out a link in the description below. Without further ado, though, let's get into the show. Here's me sitting down with Henry Kilbane. All right, here we are. Henry, thank you for being here, being my guinea pig, trying out this podcast, essentially. How you been?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. And thank you for trusting me enough to be your guinea pig as well. That's actually means a lot. So thank you.
Oh, yeah, I'm definitely happy to have you. I think it's going to be great. I was telling you this a little bit beforehand, but my kind of thought for this particular format it would generally be with somebody lesser known than yourself. I would envision people actually, completing a survey or writing in to come on. But since I don't have a podcast yet, I didn't want to calling all potential podcast guests. Just let me know if you want to be on something that doesn't exist yet. And you being someone who I know pretty well, and we've had a lot of conversations, sometimes around kind of similar topics to what we're going to dive into. And, of a younger generation than me, not like you're no longer the 21-year-old, but
I'm not. I know.
but still earlier in your career. And so basically, let's just start. And the idea, as you know, is I just want to start by talking about your poker journey thus far and go from there. So when would you say you found poker and how?
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I discovered poker when I was like 13 or 14 on Zinger Poker on Facebook. And things weren't going great at school. I was kind of like skipping classes. I was just being a bit reckless and rebelling against my teenage years. And some of the older guys from like a few years higher than me were actually playing poker for 2 cent, 5 cent in the cafes outside of school. And they saw me playing on the computer and said, "Henry, why are you playing for like fake money? Come and actually play poker." And I just remember thinking that it was really important to have cards that you can make a royal flush with. And that was the main focus for the first month, was trying to make a royal flush. But I was hooked pretty much from then. And then I ended up dropping out of school when I was 16. Told my parents I was going to pursue it full time, which obviously they weren't too thrilled with. And had a friend deposit money for me because I wasn't 18, which
Mm-hmm.
I apologize for doing that when I was 16. But
I forgive you.
thank you. And yeah, it was just for me, the main thing that really just like hooked me straight away from like a competitive point of view was the long-term reward system of outsmarting and outthinking your opponent. Because for me, that kind of reward system meant a lot. I felt like, especially at the time when I first got into it, I was like, wow, this is great. Like, you're actually getting rewarded and you're incentivized to try and be smarter than the person next to you or try and make like as or lesser mistakes than them. In the hope that, variance in the long term will, be, kind to you. And that was it. That was just it for me. That the fact that you'd have proof, hopefully, in terms of trophies, in terms of money, assets, whatever, to kind of prove your competence as a poker player. Yeah, and fast forward 10 years later, and I'm still love it. I still do have a love for the game, but it's definitely changed, obviously, compared to then.
Yeah. So a couple of things come to mind there. One is, so you were struggling in school, and then you spoke about, kind of getting recognized and rewarded for competence. Did you feel like you were not, prior to poker, do you feel like you were more talented than you were given credit for, or let's say like looked at in school?
Yeah, so I know you and I, as friends, have maybe discussed this off stream, but just to give the viewers a bit of a background. I was born and raised in the United Kingdom, and when I was 14, I came home from school one day, and my parents said, "You're moving to Bulgaria, which is a country in Eastern Europe." And although I learned the language really quickly, it was pretty evident that I'd gone from being like a straight A student. I was already looking into, universities in the UK, to it being very clear that I was either going to fail high school or I was going to get, the type of results that wouldn't get me into any form of further education unless it was paid for. Just because of the language barrier. You can imagine 14 trying to learn advanced mathematics or chemistry in Bulgarian. And for me, it felt like, and by the way, I love my parents. We're very close. But at the time, it was a family business decision. And I felt like my education had been kind of brushed to the side for the benefit of the whole family, which I completely understand, again, from my parents' point of view. But I was struggling. I was really struggling. I was in a very small town in Eastern Europe, going from London to like a population of 10,000 people, and yeah, it was just like, okay, well, it looks like you're gonna fail school. You're good with money. You're good with business. You're good with ideas. And then that's when I discovered poker, and I was like, okay, well, this will potentially give me the earning capabilities at this age that I'm at now. Where you normally need, experience or you need connections to get like a good job at the age of 16, 17. And it was just my idea to basically use poker as a way to fund whatever it was that I wanted to pursue at that time. And then obviously fast forward 10 years, it actually led into like an actual career.
Yeah. No, I can relate to that. What I always loved about poker was kind of similar. You're directly rewarded for how well you play, and there are no politics involved, or it's not where you went to school, it's not who you know. Although, as we know, some of that is there are ways to benefit from that in poker too.
For sure.
But yeah, no, I get that. So when you dropped out at 16, you said, did you started at 14, you dropped out at 16, but you were playing at first just for royal flushes. Had you had some success at that point at 16?
Yeah. So we ended up organizing a home game between me and some close buddies of mine. I say close buddies, like high school friends at the time. Age gap or like between 15 to 25, basically. But it'd be a very consistent thing, 4, 5, sometimes 7 nights a week. And after a couple of months, it was very evident that there were like two clear winners in the game, me and my best friend, who has also had a lot of success in poker, but he has always lent towards being anonymous, so I'll keep his name out of the picture. But he's definitely excelled, and it's been nice to excel alongside by him. But yeah, going back, we had gone from this like 2 cent, 5 cent game to both having like $500 to our name, for example, which at the time when we were like 15, that was like a lot of money, and we were the only ones that were kind of like in that kind of profit. So we ended up reaching out. I think we both reached out to the same friend actually to make the deposits for us, and I lost everything within like the first 10 minutes of the first night of like getting my money online, as you do. I think I had like $10 left. Ended up playing some $8.80 turbo on Stars back in the day when first place was like 4K, 5K, and ran really deep in that. I think I cashed for like 3K eventually, or something silly like that. But that was enough to just like that was like the fuel, right? Because at the time, 3K was just like, wow. Like that's ridiculous, you know, like 15, 16 years old. That's
and you didn't have like when I think I dropped out of college, I was I wasn't a great student. I was doing fine, and I was more than halfway through my way to a degree. But you were partway through high school, and prospects were not looking good at that point for like you hadn't you're I can get how like not much success is required to even if you're being like, obviously at 15, 16, you're not ready to make huge life decisions. But even if you were thinking extremely clearly, it does make sense that, that it was a reasonable option for you.
Yeah. I mean, for me, there's a lot of just like background stuff that come into a lot of the key decisions and mistakes that I've made over the last decade. Like I come from a family of immigrants, Irish Italian immigrants, and from a very young age we were taught how important money was because my family never had it. I remember my mum used to reward us for learning the alphabet from the age of 2. She used to literally, for every correct letter, she would give us 2p, which is like the equivalent of like 2 cents in America. And it would be like in a savings jar. So very early on, I was very money driven. Even as a kid, like I started my own company when I was like 10. Like I used to buy and sell sweets because I asked my parents for an Xbox. They said, we can't afford it. If you want one, you need to like earn the money for it. So I was like, okay, well, can I use my Christmas and birthday money? And obviously then when I discovered poker, and just like saw the money behind it and the money that could potentially be earned if you like applied yourself correctly, that was kind of it for me, because I knew that I never wanted to work for someone. I didn't ever like want a boss. It turns out that wasn't that didn't actually happen for me. I did actually end up going broke a few occasions. I had to get like a job and whatnot, but that was the main thing for me, was like the freedom behind it and being able to work for yourself, kind of choose your own wage or salary, if you will, depending on like how much effort you put in and whatnot. And yeah,
no, that makes perfect sense. And so it seems like if I were to pick two main drivers for you, it was financial and kind of, I don't know if it's fair to say, but like validation or
100%.
Yeah. Finding
it's
success,
definitely the correct word.
Success that you felt you were capable of or deserved.
It was definitely a craving for many years. The first, from 16 till 21, my parents were very against poker. In a very extreme way. Like my mum gave me an ultimatum when I was like 17, when I think it was the first time I lost my role. I was like 17, almost 18. And I went to her, told her I was broke. She asked me how, and I told her, I like took a game that I basically shouldn't have at the time. Because my ego was through the roof. That's maybe something else we could jump into. But yeah, and then she said, well, you either leave home if you want to pursue poker, or you get a job. And I was like, okay, well, I'm broke, so I can't
Yeah.
can't leave home. And yeah, she basically paid for my flight back to the UK, and paid for me to get like driving lessons. And yeah, and then that was it. Like poker wasn't really discussed from the age of like 17 and a half until 19 and a half, because every time it would get mentioned or every time I would get caught playing poker, it would just lead to like an argument. And but again, I don't want anyone to think I put my parents on blast. I completely understand everything that they were doing and saying at the time. And yeah, it wasn't until I went to Atlantic City for the first time when I was 21, and the validation that you're talking about, the craving that I was, the craving that I had to be respected by my parents, my family, my peers as well, didn't happen until that age. And I think my parents must have, the way my mum has said it to me, they were both sat on the couch at home on Facebook, and I'd uploaded a picture from the Empire State Building in New York, and they were like, well, I guess Henry seems like he's all right now. And then ever since then, they've been my biggest fans, and it's amazing. I'm very blessed because my parents really are just insanely supportive now.
Awesome.
But for years, it was quite the battle trying to like convince them that this was just something that I just knew from a very early age that this was something that I wanted to pursue. And I think you need to have that kind of passion, and it's not maybe not a necessity, but I think it's somewhat of a requirement when it comes to this game.
I do too. I think that, I've across my career, I've met a lot of people who came into poker because their friends were making good money playing poker, and they didn't really care about the game. They just thought it was some easy money. And most of them did not last as long. Because you need the passion. And yeah, it sounds like your parents just were worried about your decision making when wanted the best for you. Yeah. Which
100%.
Most would be. So then I guess let's fast forward. So let's try to get from then till now, but kind of quickly, as far as your poker journey. So you started with tournaments?
Yeah, I mean, started with tournaments in the sense that I was like 16, 17 and had no live cash games available. And then 18 to the age of 21, it was a lot behind my parents' back whilst I was working, just like in between jobs, building a roll, losing it, building a roll, losing it. And whenever I'd like shot take. And then, like I said, 21, did like a road trip around America, just discovered how soft live cash games were, just in general, not necessarily in the States, but just in general. I think live cash games then were a really good way for me to like build a roll. And then there's been like hiccups along the way, definitely, where I have felt if I've won X amount in live games that I could then transition to online and compete at like the same stakes, which just is not the case. So just like disclaimer for anyone out there that's beating like 10-25 live that thinks that they can go and beat 500 Zoom, you're just so wrong. It's insane how good the online guys are.
Yeah.
And I got humbled a few times. I definitely got humbled a few times over the last like 4 or 5 years. And yeah, I mean, it's my career. I mean, maybe better than most, is a bit of a weird one, because just as I was starting to be comfortable in calling myself a professional poker player from like a live cash game background was when I kind of fell into commentary. I kind of fell into the behind the scenes part of the industry, the media part. And from a very early stage in my professional career, I when people ask me how long I think I've been a professional, I would think that I've been professional for 5 years. That's how long I've been like living off of this game.
Yeah.
Before that, it was like ups and downs. But ever since I turned professional, a year in, I started doing commentary on a very high level, almost overnight. And I was put into a somewhat weird spot, if you will, in the sense that I didn't have to embrace variance like my peers did, because I was getting paid a pretty decent salary from the age of like 22, just jumping behind closed doors into the commentary booth and commentating on a game that I loved. And I would lose, let's say, 5, 10K in a month. And I'd be like, oh, well, I'm sending such and such an invoice for 5K this month or 7K. So it's only actually a minus 2K month. It's all good.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a blessing and a curse. I'll be completely honest with you. It's definitely made me extremely complacent over the years. I definitely feel like I haven't excelled and had the same drive and passion as some of the people that I've grown up around with have, because they haven't had that safety net. They haven't had that kind of comfort to get lazy with the effort that they're putting in. And yeah, that's definitely been my vice in my career, if you will, like my poison, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I think you might be. Obviously, it's on the whole a good thing to have opportunity, like options, and to have kind of call it a backup plan, or call it variance reduction of sorts. I mean, obviously, I do think when you only have one way to make money, it doesn't allow you to get as complacent.
For sure.
So I get that, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of people I know get lazy at various points in their careers. Either you have like a few good months, and you're like, I got this. You have a big score, and you're like, I got this. No rush. So there are. I think if that wasn't making you lazy, something could or would have at points. But no, I hear you. I think it does perhaps hamper your growth a little bit. Yeah. And so,
I mean, would you not say that for you, it's true over the years, being like a public figure within the poker industry, that you've been in situations where you felt like you've needed to like prove yourself as a poker player as well? Or is that not something you've struggled with?
No, actually, it's something I struggled with. I mean, I think probably felt pretty similar to you, although for different reasons. I feel like they were more internal, but I wanted to prove myself, and I wanted to get more public recognition when I thought I was really good and nobody knew about me.
Okay.
But once, I think now people think I'm better than I am. So I don't really have, I don't have that chip on my shoulder. And I haven't for a while. But I did for a long time want that recognition when, you're watching people play on TV, and they would have no chance against you, yet they're household names and nobody knows who you are. And I think a lot of people, my generation, had that kind of the first-ish online generation. First online generation before kind of the online world, starting with Tom Dwan, kind of entered the live or TV poker and the public eye. Yeah. But no,
I did. It's definitely you guys are. You were definitely the first generation to kind of become like famous, if you will. Whereas I don't think my generation, and I definitely don't think the youngest generation, like the 18, 19-year-olds, I'm struggling to think of too many. Like Landon Tice comes to mind.
Well, it's mostly going to be Twitch and YouTube now for the younger generations, because poker on TV, especially in America, which is where I consume most of my poker content, or have, after 2011, just kind of died, more or less. And so, it's been hard to, and I think the industry is still recovering from that. I mean, it's definitely still recovering from that, but in the way, but especially in, basically had in 2011, from 2003 to 2011 was the like heyday of televised poker, and it had the same people essentially on your TVs, the same top players and famous players, and then it just kind of stopped. And so now we're almost 20 years removed from the beginning of that, and 15 to 20 years removed from that era of televised poker. But that's still like the last thing most of the public kind of knows, and so we're still kind of stuck with. It's hard to introduce new faces. to people who want to see who they recognize. Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I think, well, you were one of the people that was like there for me when I was having a tough time pretty much not this time last year, about 8-9 months ago. And that was one of the biggest challenges for me, because I felt like I couldn't go to anyone else my age, because I had made up this like this thing, the thing in my head where I was doing commentary for these 100K high rollers and the best players in the world, like yourself included. I was commentating on the Galfond challenge, and all of a sudden I had people, and we had thousands of people watching the Galfond challenge. I had thousands of people tuning in for the party poker and the WSOP stuff, asking for my credentials. They wanted receipts, and I was like, I can't give you receipts. Like, I don't play tournaments. I've always kind of treated poker as like a lifestyle business, if you will, where it's just funded my travels, and I've been happy, just jumping between 50 to 100K a year, and as long as I've got that like safety net, and yeah, I just put a lot of pressure on what the public perception was of me, and I couldn't really turn to anyone my own age or like similar in age. I'd be like, "Oh, can you relate?" And then it wasn't until I spoke to you and some other people from the old guard that have battled with public opinions and whatnot over the years, and kind of helped me just kind of realize that who cares what other people think of you at the end of the day. If you're happy and those closest to you are happy with who you are and your values and your ethics and code of conduct are something that's true to yourself, then who cares what Twitch user 123 has to say about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious. I'll start with me, but I'm curious if you're there, because I think everybody knows that that's where we want to get to. That's kind of how we should be thinking. But I care what people think about me, and I probably care more than average, or more than the average person, even though I consider myself generally like even keeled and have a good head on my shoulders. I probably care more than the average person what people think about me. But for me, it's more specific. Like I don't really care if anybody thinks that I'm smart or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if anybody thinks I'm good at poker or not.
Okay.
Right? And maybe that's because those are two things that I just am confident in, and then that's that. But I still want people to like me. I want them to think that. I mean, that's kind of the overarching. I want to be well liked, and and I still care what people think. And it seems like, and I do care about how good I am, but more for me. And so my question to you is, how far have you gotten on your journey to not caring what a random user on Twitch thinks, or let's say a peer thinks about either, you as a person or your game?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I think you already know me well enough to know the true answer, so I can't really bullshit about this. Honestly, but I definitely, especially in exchanges that we've had, I've always I don't want to let you down, Phil. If I say something, I want to follow through on it. So when it comes, I think for me, the line of caring and not caring normally comes down to whether I respect the person on the opposite side of the line. So if it's someone that I look up to and I'm striving to kind of become more like, whether it's like on a professional level, whether it's just like as a human being, I definitely am above the threshold of caring. Like I care too much, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe you could probably tell. But now I think I've been called every name under the sun when it comes to like Twitch, because that's just Twitch in general. It can be a very toxic environment. When it comes to like looks or my commentary or the way I break down a hand, I don't really care, because the companies are still calling me up. I'm still getting the gigs. Therefore, I would like to assume that the reason that I'm being employed is because I'm doing a somewhat decent job when it comes to commentary. But from a poker point of view, I still struggle. I struggle when people challenge me, whether it's not so much on Twitch. Like Twitch is definitely a place, or YouTube, where I just detach myself from those types of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, when I come to a place like King's Resort to cover a series, and someone will say, "Oh, but you're not a professional poker player, right? You just do the commentary for these guys." That, like, sometimes I feel like I need to like prove myself. I'm like, well, and the other person doesn't mean any harm by it either. They just don't know. They've only heard me do commentary. And again, it just kind of falls back into that category of like, well, where are your receipts, Henry? Like, okay, sure, you've been traveling around playing poker, but like, not everyone's been following that journey for the last 5-6 years. So, of course, people are going to challenge your professionalism, like your understanding of the game, and I don't blame them either. But I definitely care about trying to like prove myself to people, maybe more so than I should.
Well, it sounds like the interesting thing is that it sounds like with commentary, what's important to you is not what random people think, but what you think about yourself. And you talked about the evidence of, companies are still calling you up, you're still getting gigs. And so would it be fair to say that in that sense, it's more like if you were doubting yourself a lot, that would bother you. But as long as you're confident in yourself, the kind of criticism from people you don't know, or
I think self-doubt has just always been a huge issue for me on a personal level. Again, something that you and I have definitely spoken about in private, but just like put out there. I am the type of person where, a few sessions don't go my way, and I start questioning everything, and it's definitely like a huge mindset leak of mine. And the reality is like I'm very good at talking the talk when it comes to what needs to be done in order to succeed in poker and to make it as a poker player. But I'm not so good at following through and following my own advice when it comes to walking the walk as well. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think first of all, you're very self-aware, but second of all, I think you're probably too hard. Well, you're definitely too hard on yourself, but in things like this, like basically everybody is like that to a degree. And I think I think everybody assumes that everybody else just has it together much more than they do, like 100%. By far. And it's really, and I always did. It wasn't until I think, I don't know, in my early 20s, I made some really close friends who, would have deep enough conversations that we'd get to really know each other and then realize, oh, hey, everybody, we're all human. And I think some people who probably more male than female never like go through life with friendships that never involve conversations like that. They assume that the way they are is not okay and is different than everybody else. When these kind of like self-doubt and knowing what to do but not doing it, that's all of us.
I think, by the way, just kind of give you a lot of credit for this, especially like my generation and the people that look up to you. That there's definitely been times where you've been very vulnerable on social media, and it goes without saying that it really is appreciated, because these are subjects that you might be afraid to like speak up about. I'm talking about the people at home like watching it, and I've definitely been in environments as well. Like I've had some weird situations over the last like year or so, Phil, where I'm like the old guy in the group, which sounds crazy because I'm 26, but I'm hanging out with like a bunch of these 500 Zoom online crushers at like 21, 22. And I'm like, dude, like, just be vulnerable with me for 5 minutes. Like, we can have a conversation other than like this frequency-based decision that you made 3 months ago against a certain player because like Pio told you to. And it's just like, you're going to go through life as a very successful poker player, but one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be 26, 27, 30, maybe even older, and you're going to look back and be like, shit, like, I don't even know, who my actual like friends are. I don't even know who I can go to for these real world problems. And I've been very fortunate. I mean, I hope, or I feel like I've been fortunate enough to have kind of been that person to some of the younger guys that I hang out with, who have really grown. And it's been like a pleasure for me to see them grow as like people, just like from character building point of view and like self-awareness point of view, where over time they realize that I don't want to talk about Monka and Pio and poker 24/7. When I get close to people, I want to know people. I want to know what wakes you up in the morning. I want to know what keeps you up at night. I want to hear the good stuff and the bad stuff as a friend.
Yeah.
And I've got some friends now that I hope I have for life, that I've been hanging out with for the past couple of years, and it's been amazing to kind of see them grow as people. But not everyone is that fortunate, and I think people aren't that fortunate because they think it's important to signal how good they are at poker, how in the lab they are, just how competent they are with the modern day technologies and all of these like really intricate parts of the game tree, just to feel accepted, just to get like that validation of, oh my god, he's winning X amount of big blinds per 100 because he's like doing this, that, and the other. And there are more things to life than running sims.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that the theme of this conversation has become how much everybody cares about what other people think of them.
Pretty much.
It's just it's like a plague on society.
Yeah.
So on that note, we talked about commentary. You do have some self-doubt there, but enough that if you're getting the evidence that you're doing well, the random comments don't bother you. But with poker skill, that's not the case. And so is it something different about poker skill in general, or is it that you have less confidence in your own poker skill?
I think it's just because I know myself well. I would like to think I know myself well enough that I know when I'm putting in the right amount of effort and when I'm not. And more often than not, again, because I've been fortunate and I've got a decent safety net and I've got things to like fall back on, when the two options are presented to me to grind and just really get in there, study spots that I've been getting put in the bin in, discuss hands with people that are much better than me and just like opening my mind, or go and chill out for a week on a beach. It's normally the beach, or it's normally the life EV decision, if you will, for like a 26-year-old. But also, like, to be just completely transparent, once I started earning enough money to keep me afloat, and don't get me wrong, at the start, in Europe, I think the average salary across Europe is maybe like 30,000 euros. So once I was like earning more than 2,000 euros a month, that was it for me, was just to treat poker like a lifestyle business, to be able to enjoy my 20s and to get to do all the things that my parents and grandparents would always like say they regretted never doing. And there was never really any drive to become someone like yourself, for example, to reach the top of a certain food chain within the poker hierarchies. And that's okay with me, and it still is okay with me, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, I'm not looking to play Veni Vidi heads up for 25k hands. I'm not trying to win trophies and grind circuits and just be playing 24/7. I just really want to look back in 40 years and say, Jesus, man, when I was 20, I was in my 20s, I did everything that I wanted to do. And I think so far I've kind of kept true to that. That's something that I don't regret doing.
Yeah, I'm going to challenge you a little bit here because a couple of things. One, which we've spoken in the past a little bit about, interest in like getting
Legacy.
into more events. Yeah. Like WSOP events, things like that. And also this is not so much a challenge, but it does seem like, so you don't necessarily want to be considered the best in the world, but you do still want to be considered good, competent, professional.
Yeah. And it's a good challenge as well. And I appreciate it, because something that I do, and I will put my hands up as high as possible for, is just chop and change. And I'm very renowned for it. And my real life friends as well, my friends like outside of poker, I don't know why I called them real life friends, because my poker friends are real life friends as well. But my non-poker friends call me out on it a lot as well, in the sense that, like, I will be interested in grinding for 2 months non-stop and just like really improving and just putting in hours and getting good, and then I won't get rewarded straight away for the effort that I've put in. So then I'll just like, okay, well, I'll go back to old habits. I know that I can beat that game, that 10-10 game at such and such for a decent hourly, and I know that funds the lifestyle that I've become accustomed to. So why would I risk, putting all of that on the line? And I'm believing in myself really more than anything, because like to step outside the comfort zone of a certain win rate or a certain game that you can beat, to improve at stakes and against players and in games that you aren't necessarily proven in yet, that can be quite a daunting thing to pursue, especially as a poker player and a young one at that, because I think my biggest fear and biggest reason for chopping and changing is because if I fail, like if I lose my role at this age, I feel like I would have to go back with like my tail between my legs kind of thing, and everyone would be like, "Oh, we told you to go to university instead of pursuing poker all those years ago. We told you to get this job. Like we told you that, and that has definitely been one of the biggest mental blockages for me, is every time I've found the motivation to improve, every time I've spoken with you, for example, about the game, and I'll be pumped for a month or 2 months or, even just a couple of weeks into it, or the first hiccup or the first thing that doesn't go my way, there'll just be like a little miniature version of me on my shoulder saying, "See, Henry, now you know that you can make X amount of money each year playing that game because you've done it for the last 3 years. Like, the evidence is there. So why are you now trying to do this when you're already facing more resistance, tougher challenges, more complex spots than you ever have up until now? Why are you trying to change something that works?"
Yeah. Well, you have had that happen. You had that when you were, I forget, 17, 18, 17, you did have to go back with your tail between your legs because you had tried it and not worked out. You said you'd had experiences where you've gone broke and had to grind back up. And so, I mean, it's probably too strong of a word to call it trauma, but like, you've had those events. Like, do you think that exacerbates your fear of the same thing happening again?
I mean, potentially it would make sense, right? Like, it would make sense that on a subconscious level that is one of the things. But looking back, I feel like I didn't care at the time. I was like 17. I was an idiot when I was 22. Like, let alone 17. Like, I thought I knew everything. And probably in 5 years' time, I'm going to look back at something like this. when I'm 26. So we're like, Jesus, Henry, like Phil was giving you like so many golden nuggets, and you just like, but no, I think it's just like an age thing as well right now. Like, okay, it's hilarious because I know I'm only 26, and and the crazy thing is a lot of the people that I really look up to, and the peers that I've been fortunate enough to call friends in the poker community, such as yourself, are. And sorry for like putting this out there, but you have a few years on me.
Yeah.
And I do need to kind of just like remind myself every now and then is that 26 is still pretty young when it comes to poker career. And I think there might be a few people at home that can relate to growing up watching poker on YouTube and TV and seeing these young superstars like Fedor comes to mind, Toby Lewis, Ben Wilanowski, like these guys winning EPTs, winning WPTs, winning bracelets. But for every Fedor, like there's literally 1,000 disappointed 19-year-olds.
Yeah.
For every Ben Wilanowski, there's like 1,000 disappointed. For every 19-year-old that entered the EPT, or every 19-year-old that entered the World Series of Poker Europe main event, there's only one Adrian Mateos, right? There's like thousands that didn't make it. And I think even until like now, I'm 26, it's very easy to look at your career from between that age group and be like, well, like I haven't made it because I haven't done what Adrian Mateos has done. I haven't done what Fedor done. Therefore, because Fedor did it by the time he was 24 and I haven't, then, what's the point?
Yeah. No, I get it. I mean, I think it's not unique to poker too. Everybody sees their peers succeeding or whether it's people on TV or people, running a huge business, whatever field you're in, or just seeing your friends that are succeeding more than you in one thing or another. I think it's easy for that to take us from what we think we want to do and make us think we want to do something else for a period of time.
It's a great mental model, the power of contrast, right? Like if I look at the YouTube videos or the ESPN series that I used to watch, or like Instagram profiles of these like top pros, like in my mind, the way my mind interprets it, or it did, or everyone in general, is like you're projecting a 10 out of 10 lifestyle, right? A person that is at the top of the food chain, has achieved everything there is to achieve. But what you don't realize is because of the lens that you're looking through, you're looking at these people and their accomplishments, is that you're a 21-year-old, you're earning like 50K tax-free money and you're beating, 200 Zoom online or 510 live. Like, you've already achieved a lot more than a lot of people have, tried and failed over the years. Like, you need to give yourself a pat on the back and a bit more credit. And this kind of circles back to me talking the talk, but then not necessarily being compassionate and loving with myself when it comes to like what I feel like, or what I've achieved, because I'm always comparing it to yourself, for example, or like for other people that have achieved way more.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the tricky thing is there's always going to be, let's say there are a lot of different areas in life, and you can only dedicate so much of yourself to each of them because you only have so many hours in your day and so much focus, and kind of even so much like passion and drive to give to something. And there's always going to be somebody who's taking the approach of being all in on something.
Yeah.
And, the group of people who, from the group of people that are spending 90% of their waking hours thinking about poker, studying poker, playing poker, some of them are going to be the ones that rise to the top. And some people that have a more balanced life might get there too, but fewer. And so then let's say you're one of those and you just dive fully into, let's say, challenging yourself to be as good as you can be. Well, now maybe because at the start of the challenge, you're not doing as well financially. Now maybe you're not having social life, and you have friends who are, living a life that you envy. there's always going to be something that can kind of draw you back to, oh, I'm missing out on that, or oh, I wish there was that. So yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's never ending. By the
It
way,
really is.
or actually, at least till 36. It's not. I don't know about the future, but
I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Just another 10 years to go.
So, what would you say that you? What do you say? What would you say that you are, if anything, trying to decide now in terms of where to put your focus? Let's talk career wise first, I guess.
Okay. Firstly, that's a fantastic question. Secondly, to answer your question, I think I would like to think I've only just started figuring it out. And again, I might look back on this in 5 years' time and think, no, Henry, you hadn't figured any of it out. But I have been fortunate enough to be able to speak to you in private. I've been fortunate enough to speak to other very successful people in private. And one of the things that I've learned through conversing with people such as yourself is that everyone's got their own thing going on. You know, everyone's like, not everyone's got it figured out. And for me, that was like that was definitely this year. Like it was, I would say, as recent as like 6 months ago, I figured this out. And that was like a massive weight off my shoulder. Yeah. Realizing that it was okay that I didn't really know what direction I wanted to go in. And the main realization that I had was what poker had meant to me up until now. And the truth is that I've always treated poker as a lifestyle business, and I've never admitted that to myself up until recently. I've always thought, or I've always lied to myself, to be completely honest. I've always lied to myself that I've put in as much effort as possible, as I possibly could, into poker, and that is just not the case. But the reality is that I don't want to put in that much effort either. Like I don't think I'm the type of person that is capable of waking up and 95% of my day being poker. The way that I view the world, and especially the way that I would like to view it for myself up until now, and at least for the next couple of years, is like, I want to see things. You know, I want to tell you how hot it is in the Vegas deserts, you know, or you know, in Australia. I want to tell you about certain museums and cities that I've been to. Like, I want those experiences. And you talk about balance, and like, the more balanced lifestyles are more difficult to get to the very top of the food chain. And that's something that has become more and more clear to me. I don't think I had that clarity up until recently. And it wasn't really until I saw some of the younger guys, some of the 21, 22-year-olds that are really crushing online. And it is insane, you know, just how they think about the game. Like, I'm lost after speaking with them for 5 minutes. But I've learned to be okay with that. Like, that's what they've chosen, and they're happy with their choice at the moment. Maybe it will change for them in 5 years. Who knows? And maybe it will change for me. You know, maybe in 2 years' time, I'll be like, wow, I feel like I've seen everything I wanted to see. I've got a decent network. I've got a decent amount of liquidity behind me. Like, let's jump into it for 12 months and just go absolutely ham and see where it takes us. Like, that might be something that I pursue. But for now, yeah, it's always been a lifestyle business. I've never dedicated 100% of my time and efforts to poker because I've given other things more importance, such as freedom and traveling. For me at the moment, the one consistent thing that has been there since day one, since the moment I discovered what poker is until this very moment that we're having in this interview, if you will, is I've always loved poker content. That is the one thing that I've always loved, and it's always been consistent. Whenever my passion for poker has gone away, doesn't matter. The poker content has still been there. I've still been watching YouTube, Twitch, you know, run it once trading videos or whatever it is, just to get the plug in there. But that's the one consistent thing that I can truly look back at over the last 10, 11 years and say it's always been there. And the thing is I love creating poker content as well. I love being involved in people's projects, and I love commentary. I love YouTube, and whether that would be the case in a year's time, I don't know. But for the time being, I'm really enjoying just playing games that I'm comfortable in, games that I know I've got like a high enough win rate that I don't really need to worry too much about variance. Apologies to people that play in my game. I'm not trying to like say that, and I am enjoying working on my own brand's project at the moment, as well. Just putting out a lot of content on Twitch, Instagram, and seeing where it goes.
I mean, that makes me very happy that you're kind of, from last time we spoke, seems like you have a lot more clarity and especially contentment, or maybe acceptance of not being able to do it all, and
yeah,
the contentment that comes from that.
Yeah, I think I've always been the, if you chase two rabbits, you wind up with none kind of thing. And very early on, I think just because I was like young and thrown into, not necessarily I don't want to call it the limelight, but I was given a voice. I was given a platform at a very young age, where I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder. I definitely had an ego bigger than I should have, because I was like, well, if I'm getting called in to cover a 100K like tournament, then these 5-5 regs need to like respect me, and so what? And that's just like, so yeah. I mean, there's definitely like a lot of ego and stuff early on, but I think, I don't know. I mean, you've known me long enough now to know that I'm content 1 minute, and then the next minute I'm like, but yeah, I was there because of all of that. The point that I was trying to make is that I was definitely trying to chase too many rabbits.
Yeah.
Very early on, I was trying to be liked by everyone. I wanted to be respected by everyone. On top of that, I wanted to be winning in the games that I was playing. I wanted to do commentary. I wanted to travel and be invited to these events. And I feel like I've now kind of narrowed down what I want to give time and value to. And yeah, we'll see if that's going to stick, or if I'm going to be crying to you on the phone in 6 months' time. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it was, yeah. So the idea I had, for this kind of structure is that we maybe talk through some decisions that you had to make, or try to come to some realizations, or really just any concerns that you had. But it sounds like, good for you and bad for my first episode of this, that you don't have that need right now. I'm still going to challenge you a little bit, just in case.
Go ahead. Dude, come
on. And so so you talked about getting into content more. This is not really a challenge. This obviously, like, it's never mutually exclusive. You don't have to like either love something or be doing it to earn some money, because I love everything that I do to earn money. But is the idea there to kind of build up something that can generate income and more passive income, so that you on top of your commentary and playing in the games, you have kind of more buffer to live the lifestyle you want to?
Yeah, definitely. To answer your question, the answer is yes. It is a brand that I hope will generate, a decent amount of money in the long run, and it will be a nice passive income. But the reason, and by the way, like, my brand is under no, we're not trying to pretend that the reasons we're doing it aren't financially driven, because that is one of the main drives. But me and the guys, and me especially, this is something that I've learned from you, basically, and from, again, the old guard that I've been very fortunate enough to just be able to send a text message to and get advice on. I think this poker world, is insanely challenging and insanely demanding. And I think a lot of young people, because I was that young person, I still am that young person, but I was 18, 19 at one point, don't know what they're getting themselves into. And I'm not trying to put anyone off, but the brand that we're trying to create is we want to basically show everyone everything that is involved in being a poker player, because I think the current meta for Twitch content is the sexy side of poker, the winning, the glory, the money, the fast cars, the hot chicks, the locations, all of this and the other. And I've been guilty of that before myself. Like there might be people that follow me on social media and be like, oh, Henry, you're always posting. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, again, the lens and whatnot, that we look at these Instagram profiles. But the guys that I'm working with are some of the most unique poker minds that I've ever had the pleasure of talking with, and a couple of them are older than me. One of them is younger than me, so I feel like we've got a very great balance. So we have an age gap of about 12 years between the youngest and the eldest, and our goal is not only to put out great poker content in terms of like the highest stakes and the theory and everything behind it, but we want to be vulnerable with everyone. We want the camera on our face when we have a minus 50k day. Like we want to show you, the crypto swings, that we were stupid enough to invest in as well, or the sports bets that don't go away. But we want to show you how painful it can be to give your best to this profession and finish 10th 10 times in a row.
Yeah.
When there's like a bracelet on the line, there's a WPT trophy on the line, whatever it is. Because I don't think there are enough people out there who are as fortunate as I am to be able to send you a text message, to be able to send people like Matt Berkey's another person that I really respect and admire. I think he's another very vulnerable person. Jason Kuhn, another person that is just not only a brilliant mind, but just a really vulnerable and honest human being. But not everyone is fortunate enough to be able to speak to people like yourselves. And I just wish that, or I'm hoping to create something that people do have that. And I think you've definitely rubbed off on me in where I would like to see myself in 10 years. Glory aside, poker aside, I would like to be seen as someone that the younger generation, or the generation that comes after me, can kind of look up to and be vulnerable and open up to me and feel like they're not going to be judged, because that's how you've made me feel. That's how other people in the from the generation before me have made me feel, where they're just like, Henry, we've been there. We've all been 25. We've all thought we knew it all. We all had the ego. We all thought, when we won our first 20K, that we were the best poker player in the world. And yeah, that's the thing that kind of brought us together as a team. And again, I'm not trying to say that we're not going to try and make money from this, because we are. Like, we've invested a lot of money in it. And there will definitely be mistakes that we will make as a team, where we may go against what is true to us because of a financial, what's the word I'm looking for?
Incentive.
And we'll look back and be like, shit, was it worth that 50k when we kind of went against our own code of conduct? I'm sure we're going to make that mistake, but what I know to be true to me is my younger friends, again, they're already like 3 or 4 years younger than me, but I like to give them advice, and that, like, I love being able to be there for them during those things, the same way that I've really appreciated and love the fact that I can go to you and I can go to other people who have more experience than me, not just in poker, in life as well. So that's one thing I know to be true at the moment.
Yeah. No, I love the idea. Are you launched yet?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So where can people find you?
So we are currently streaming on our Twitch channel, which is Overbet Express.
I like it.
Yeah, so Overbet Express, basically we're just a group of friends trying to overbet on life, and it just so happens that the term overbet is something that we use in poker as well, although we don't get to use it in the great game of Pot Limit Omaha. But that was just like basically it. And we also are on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. We've only just started. Like we only have 6K followers on Twitch. And because WSOP is running on GG at the moment, we're mainly focusing on poker.
Yeah.
And it won't be until, the grind is over and done with that we start segueing into like lifestyle and entertainment and like the behind the scenes raw footage and whatnot. But
yeah,
we seem to all be on the same page, and I'm hoping that that's still the case in 6 months' time, 12 months' time.
Yeah, no, it sounds amazing, and I agree that poker, and probably a lot of industries, or just human life in general, needs more of that, more behind the scenes, what it's really like. And it's hard to, not many people want to show that side of themselves. So props to you and everybody else doing it. Yeah.
The thing is like, for me, it's pretty evident that the community's crying for more vulnerability, for more openness. And you can see it in the way that people signal on Twitter, the way that the poker community signals on Instagram and whatnot. And for me, it's kind of sad that that's the case. Like it's sad that, we're so quick to like cancel someone, to go after someone, and rather just like see that we're all on this same fucking weird journey together, because we all love the same game. And the thing is, like, if we all love the same game and we all know the complexity of it and the swings and the struggles and everything that comes with it, then why don't we have that much empathy towards each other when certain poker players are struggling, or we'll quickly be like, like this guy just got wrecked in like 100K pot and whatnot. Like, why is that the immediate response? And don't get me wrong. I know there have been people in the past that I've been thrilled to see lose money in poker games. But I'm just like, as a whole, it would just be so much nicer to have a more compassionate community. And the thing is like, I don't know what other communities are like. I can only talk for R1. So there may be people from other communities be like, Henry, it's the same in the chess community. It's the same in the gaming community. It's each man for themselves kind of thing. That may be the case. I don't know. It is obviously a very dog eat dog world. And but I'm a bit of a dreamer when it comes to that. And I think it's safe to say that the way that you communicate on social media and the way that you carry yourself, not only as like a poker ambassador, but as a human being, just comes from a very kind, compassionate place. And I just feel like if everyone was like that, or the majority of people like that, then the community would be for the better, in my opinion.
Well, thank you. And yeah, I agree. More kindness, more openness, never hurt anybody. Yeah, it's easy to, I do think it's entirely not poker specific. It's just, we're all kind of the stars of our own movie in our head. And,
That's so true.
Our entire backstory. We know what happens to us every hour of the day. We know what we're feeling. We know what we're thinking. And then, the further we get away from ourselves, from, the people we're close to, people we, know in passing, and the people we see on the internet or on TV or whatever, wherever, they just have less and less backstory, less, character development. And we just don't, it's just natural, I think, to not think about them as much, obviously, but to not kind of quickly give them as much depth as characters as we give ourselves.
Yeah. That's I don't know. I don't want to get too like spiritual or anything, but it's crazy like the way the world works sometimes. Because I remember this is going to sound really weird, I guess. But I remember I was at the airport. I think it was like 4 days ago, and to fly here to Kings for commentary, and I was just like, Henry, you're so caught up in your own world, you're like going to play poker and doing this and the other, and there are like, I don't know, 150, 200 other people on this flight with you, and they've all got their reason for being on the plane, and you just ignore it. Like you just literally you just see other people going from one place to another, and you don't give them any importance whatsoever, but you give what it is that you're doing just like the most insane amount of importance. And I was like, it's crazy to me that all of these people are going on their own path, their own journey to the same location as I am, and I will never know their reasons for it. I will never know the depth of those people, like you said, and it is it's crazy how long we go through life. I say long. We're obviously here for actually a very short time, if you think about it in terms of like how relative it is, and you don't really get to know that many other people.
Yeah.
And it's something that I think a lot of people struggle to realize, is that everyone has their own battles, everyone has their own journey, everyone has their own demons, going on. And from a very selfish point of view, we can definitely, or I've definitely been guilty of giving my demons and my battles more importance than those of people close to me and around me. And it's very easy to look at Galfond, it's very easy to look at Dwan, it's very easy to look at Kuhn, like all of these guys that, from what we see on TV, from what we see on social media, have been getting it, year after year for the better part of a decade, or in some cases longer. And it's really easy to just be like, oh, well, I don't need to check in on Phil Galfond. He's got this, he's got that. He just beat so and so for X amount. Obviously he's doing all right. And the reality is like, that's not the case. Like, everyone's got their own thing going on, and to just check in more often is, I guess, the point I'm trying to make. I don't know where this.
No, I think it's a good point.
Is going.
I think it's a good point, and I was starting to, as you were speaking, I was starting to think about, you're on that plane. There are all those people. You're never going to know, but is it wrong that, like, from a practical sense, you're never going to get to know all of them. You're never going to get to know all their stories, and it doesn't really help them all if you know why they're going where they're going. But it does help people and yourself to, first of all, get to know more people well, and second of all, to even to the people you do interact with, whether it's checking in when you haven't, or whether it's you're frustrated with somebody, and you're not really thinking about where they might be coming from. Whatever the case may be, there are a lot of scenarios where the world would be a better place, where we'd all, it'd be better for us and for other people if we just took a few seconds to try to empathize, or just wonder what's going on with them. And I do think that, like, the more people you get to know very well, I think it benefits you overall in life. I think it's like a good experience to get to know people well, but beyond that, I think from a practical sense, it's more, we're never going to know the stories of everybody around us. We can't, but we should remember that everybody, even if we're never going to know about all of it, they all go through kind of the same stuff that we do, and have 24 hours in their day of experiences every day.
Exactly. Yeah. So something that just popped up into my head was you were saying that. It's just like a question that I would like to ask you. Sorry to like spin the interview, if you will.
We're having a conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. It's really nice, actually. I've been like leaning back in my chair because I'm so comfortable. Yeah. So you've mentioned before that you kind of like, you feel like you have a sense of the type of person or people that you would get along with when it comes to working on certain projects. So for the poker players, or the younger, or just like poker players in general, doesn't have to be the younger generation. For poker players overall that are watching this, it can be quite daunting opening up and discussing hand histories with people. It can be quite daunting to like reach out to people to improve. But the reality is in 2021, poker is becoming more and more a team sport. I know that the decisions are made by yourself on the table, but more and more people are studying in groups. You have more people like Doug Polk, for example, had his team. Dean Eggs, Perkins, Tice, like all of these public heads-up matches, kind of working more and more in teams. How or what advice would you give to me, and what advice would you give to the people listening when it comes to knowing what to look for in team members or teammates, if you will, when it comes to studying and improving as a poker player?
So, I mean, I had a lot of experience with this, both, 15 years of poker and running several businesses. And I think the conclusion that I've reached, and maybe only recently, I mean, generally I've abided by this kind of principle, but not always. The conclusion I've reached is that the most important thing by far is kind of their personality and their character and how you get along with them. I think that there are times where, you've got like, you meet somebody, you're like, well, he makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Like, I'm a little bit worried he could get angry at me or something. Like, I'm a little worried we could butt heads, but he's brilliant at this. And so, you know what, he's going to, overall, he's a good guy. And he'd be an asset to work with. So work with him. And I think that is often a mistake, if not in dollar EV, which I think it often ends up being a mistake in dollar EV, but not always, but just in happiness, stress levels, contentment.
Yeah.
Because in working with people, if you're working with anybody on anything for years, there's going to be a disagreement. There's going to be a conflict. There's going to be a miscommunication. Where somebody feels wronged, and how you navigate those situations is really, really important. And you sometimes risks essentially, losing or losing a percentage of, 2 years worth of work with somebody, just because, when the going got tough or when there was a conflict that was nobody's fault necessarily. You couldn't see eye to eye and you couldn't kind of be understanding. And I especially in poker, there are a lot of things that come up where kind of expectations were different through no fault of either parties. And, or something comes up where it's, I don't know, hey, I'm going to play in this game. Do you want, 50%? And they're like, okay, yeah. And then they show up, the stakes are double and the lineup is not what they thought. And they play anyways because they're not sure what you would want and they can't reach you. And then there's, oh, I didn't want that. Like, one small example, but things like that in poker come up all the time, because the variables always change. And so, I would say number one is just, not necessarily people, like, you can't avoid running into disagreements or uncertainties like that. What you can avoid is kind of working closely with people who, could things could really blow up with in a case where you disagree. Someone you want to work with people who just want to reach a fair conclusion, even if they disagree with you about what fair might be. Both of your true desires is to be fair to each other.
I think you and I think I guess it's one of the reasons why we've worked together on a few occasions. Just have similar values in the way that we want to like treat people and understand people. I've seen, the approach of what the fuck are you doing in this spot from a lot of people. Like, you're an absolute imbecile. Like, how could you think that like this is the correct bet sizing or this is the thing that you're meant to do? And it still shocks me to this day that there are people that work in those conditions, that study in those conditions and engage in those toxic like Discord groups or like Skype groups or whatever it is. And I mean, I try and understand it, and I guess it's a case of like not wanting to be left out, not wanting to fall behind, like not being sure if you have anywhere else to go to. But just to kind of like back up what Phil just said, and basically just back up what you said, Phil. Just like really surrounding yourself with people that I think striving for the same thing is really important. And also want to build each other up. Like that, that for me is like a really important
It's a
part
great point.
of my environment, is being surrounded by people that don't mind you excelling.
Yeah.
They in fact, if anything, like they want to see you excel. They want to see you do well, rather than, and because of how competitive the game is, like you can be competitive at the tables. You know, if you're in a grind house, like there doesn't need to be this whole alpha male like dynamic going on all the time. Like you guys should just be there as a collective. Like, okay, we're here to improve. We're here to get better. You know, and then at the tables, you know, that's when you bring the heat. That's when you bring the competition. And I've been again got a good few people that I'm very fond of, that don't
Nice.
mind seeing other people do well.
I'm going to rein us back in a little bit to I want to talk about Overbet Express. So
Okay.
you've been planning it for a bit of time, and
Yeah.
and is this like, so in your kind of career? So again, not talking about travel and leisure time. Is this your main focus, like by quite a bit, percentage of hours?
Yeah. Ever since we started brainstorming the idea, it's safe to say that that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking up the most time.
And that's how you see it going kind of for the next few months at least.
Yeah. The issue is, as with, I guess, any or most projects that a group of poker players and guys in their 20s and early 30s come up with, is we're not necessarily the best at communicating our expectations for the project and company. And it's something that we are working on together as a team. We've definitely gotten much better, even just like as little as 8 weeks in than we did at the start. And where was I going with this? Yeah, so like we're getting better at communicating. I definitely want it to be my main focus for the foreseeable future, because again, it really is a project that I believe in. But at the same time, there are 4 other people in the team, and there is a possibility, as much as I love the guys and I trust them, there is a chance that that may not be the case for them in 3 months' time.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they are playing the highest stakes possible online at the moment. They're firing the 5Ks, the 25Ks, the 10Ks, and to keep up with the rest of the field, like they need to still be putting in the hours when it comes to studying, when it comes to resting, when it comes to just like the time and effort that they're putting in away from the table, as well as the time and effort they're putting in at the table. So their priorities might change. My priorities, may change, but I'd like to think that for the foreseeable future, it's going to be something that we continue to kind of focus on.
Yeah, you need to. I mean, if you haven't yet, I mean, it sounds like you're addressing it now, but getting expectations down, like on paper, I think it doesn't even have to, you don't need a lawyer to write you a contract, but you just need kind of something that's like, yes, we all understand, and this is what we have. This is what our intent is. I think it's hugely important. And then also getting kind of the, like, you're starting, you have social media channels, and, like start generating a little bit of Twitch revenue, but I don't know what all the plans are after that for revenue and things. And I'm happy to talk about it. I'd like to. But basically now, while it's kind of earlier on, I think you also need to talk about like individual exit plans. So like you said, if somebody gets interested in something else, or let's say in 6 months, one of the guys, look, I still want to be a part of this, or like, I'm still interested. I'm not trying to get out, but the fact of the matter is just like, it's not worth it to me financially to spend more than a couple hours on this. And it needs, like, all of those things are okay, but it's a lot better if you've figured out now roughly, and this could change, you could agree to something else, but roughly what would happen in the case where person C decides 6 months from now they want nothing to do with this. Do they get anything of continued revenues? Do they just drop off and they're owed nothing from then on? Or what if person B is just slacking, still wants to be a part of it?
Yeah,
Everybody agrees they're not doing their fair share. What happens?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things, and it always feels premature because you're not generating a bunch of revenue. You don't know if it's going to be something huge that you want to do for the next 10 years. But once it is, it's too late often.
Yeah, definitely. You just kind of like hit the nail on the head about quite a few of our meetings. Like we've probably, over the last 8 weeks, we've probably spent the better part of 40 hours in Discord calls, like kind of just learning as we go. And one of the main things at the start was like, well, what if someone's slacking 6 months from now but still wants to be involved? So we've set up a company and we've released 20% equity split evenly between the 5 of us to start off with, so 4% each. And we still haven't, but we are going to. It's on our like board's to-do list. Come up with ways to release the next 20% and then the next 20%. So basically, I don't want to say necessarily goals that need to be hit in order to release the 20%, but just kind of like where we would want to be at. So like, say for example, at the moment, we're not generating any revenue, right? So there's nothing. So that 4% is kind of, in terms of dollar EV, isn't actually worth anything as it stands at the moment. But let's say in 3 months' time, we have, I don't know, 5K followers on Insta and like 15K on Twitch, and people really want us to do meetup games. And then we make a deal with a casino in terms of rake, hotel, this, and that deal is worth 50K. Well, then we'd need to maybe release the next 20% and discuss, right, is that 50% being like straight repumped into the company and nobody has the right to like cash out yet? Or so those things will be kind of brought up. At the moment, to be completely honest with you, and I hope this is the case for my team members, I'm sure they would tell me if it's not, I'm really happy with everything that we're all doing. We've got our 3 main guys. So Benjamin Vorland, Espen Jorstad, and Jonas Gelsted. They're all playing high stakes poker at the moment. So do I expect them to be putting out Instagram stories? No, I do not. Like if they have a 10K to grind and they've been live on Twitch for 12 hours, I am more than happy to do the affiliation marketing emails. I'm more than happy to take 30 minutes out of my day to create a couple of Instagram posts or to message a few people in the Discord server that we're going live at this time, because I know that Espen, Jonas's, and Ben's EV is worth more to them currently by being at the best that they can when they get to the tables. And I don't want them to ever get to a point where they're like, wow, I have really dropped the ball. I am down heaps. I'm falling behind the curve against my competition, etc., because I have to send out a fucking Instagram post at 7 a.m. after I've, grinded for 12 hours. So I feel like we're all kind of filling in for each other in like strengths and weaknesses, where certain people are lacking, other people are picking up the slack, and the same vice versa. And I think that's okay for the time being, whilst we're grinding the Twitch grind basically during a big series. So I think we're all on the same page. We all get along really well. Like there's a bit of banter, and some of the calls that we've had, there are needles chucked in every now and then. But as long as they stay as needles and there isn't any like malicious intent behind it, I think we got a good a good team and a team again that kind of all have a similar vision for the brand and are happy with what everyone's doing. And I think that's really important. Not talking from experience, I've never started this type of startup before. But I think just like communication, understanding, and really being on the same page at the start is really important.
How are if there were to, maybe there haven't been yet, but if there were to be a big decision to be made, how is it made?
I think what we've been doing up until now is kind of just getting the go ahead from everyone, right?
Yeah.
So not to mention like any names, but we are currently working on a couple of like affiliation deals, and the boys have been grinding. So I've been the one like negotiating the deals, if you will. And then I'll just like go into the group chat and say, hey guys, before I respond to this email, are we happy with 20% or 25% or whatever it is of this product that as a brand we could potentially be promoting on our streams, on our YouTubes, et cetera, et cetera. And for example, there's one product that we just finished with where I sent to the group a similar message like that, and Ben's response was, I don't want to promote something without knowing what it is, which I thought was a fucking really fair answer. I was like, fair play. I think a lot of poker players or just a lot of people would be like, yes, 20% money, who cares? But Ben was like, this is a poker product. I haven't used it before. I am an elite player. Therefore, I feel like if I am going to promote a certain product to players that aspire to reach my level, then I want to make sure that the product that I'm promoting is something that I actually believe in myself. And I was like, fucking fair play, man. Like he's 22 years old and he's like, you know, and I thought that's fair. So yeah, that's basically how we're just like, everyone will throw something in the group chat. It's very chaotic at the moment because 3 of the team members are grinding an online World Series. There's then WCube starting in September. I'm jumping between cash games and commentary at the moment, as like from location to location. And then our videographer is obviously working on his own projects because we're not expecting him to not earn a living. So there's a lot of chaos at the moment, but we're hoping that there will be a lot more structure and it'll be a lot calmer once like the WCube grind is over and done with.
Yeah. So I'm always I'm self-conscious about talking about business with any authority because I don't fancy myself an excellent businessman. But
wow. Okay.
But
Jeez, I don't know what that means for me then. But fair enough.
But I would. So with usually what happens in my experience with equity is that you'd have basically you're each planning to get 20% equity total, and you'd say it vests over 5 years. Sometimes like with a 2-year cliff, which means if you don't make it to 2 years and you leave the project or you get fired from the project, you leave with no equity. If you make it to 2 years, you get 40% of your 20%.
20%. Yeah.
Yeah. And then every year you get another 20% released. And then after 5 years, if you leave, you keep your equity. And so then a way to incentivize people to stay is you kind of, I think at some point, if you're doing well enough, I think people should start getting salaries as well. And so then, if somebody wants to leave after 5 years, have as much equity as everybody else, they don't get a salary anymore. The rest of you do. And then you have something in place where we can't start making $3 million a year and Henry starts paying himself $1.5 million a year in salary.
Of course.
But that usually works. And I think I think you won't run into this for a while, but you do need, at some point there'll be a decision that not everybody agrees on, and waiting for unanimous approval is also inefficient for a company. And so what I would do, like, so the easiest way, if you want to keep it totally a democracy, is just everybody has a vote, and if majority wins. Or you could say that, like, you need 4 out of 5 of you to vote on something to have like to make a change. But another option is also to kind of elect a leader who makes the decisions, and obviously a good leader make sure that he checks with others if he's not very confident about a decision, but it lets you make decisions quickly. And then at any point, or perhaps, I don't know if it's quarterly or whenever anybody wants to, they call a vote and elect a new leader if everybody's unhappy with the one who's leading decisions. I don't think you need to do that soon necessarily, but I think as you grow, you'll need to make quicker decisions than wrangling 5 poker players to all vote on something or reach a unanimous decision.
Definitely, there have definitely been times where and again, this is where like the understanding and like communication comes in. But like a message will get sent at, let's say, 8 a.m., but then there won't be a response from like 2 of the people until the next day, or like if ever. And the thing is like you correctly introduced, that this is still a very early project, and I don't think anyone is expecting everyone to drop everything they've got. Like we've already, so like our videographer, he is potentially, well, no, not potentially, he is definitely going to be losing out on money if he is traveling around with us, filming behind the scenes content when we go to Mexico or we get a grindhouse, wherever it is. And we've already spoken about, well, you need to be paid a salary then. Mm-hmm. And then it's the same with the guys, like the guys that are grinding, the high stakes, Espen, Ben, and Jonas, have also been just really fair with me when it's like, oh, hey guys, like I can't jump in for a Twitch stream today because I'm getting paid X amount by X company to cover so and so event. They're not sat there like bitter because I'm not in the booth with them, because like they understand that. And I think all of the important things, at least from my point of view, that have needed to be discussed have been communicated really well, across the board. I'm looking forward to the guys like hearing your insight to this as well. I think this is obviously going to be insanely valuable to us, which we definitely appreciate. And yeah, I think with the whole leadership role, I don't even know if we know what this is yet. Like we think we do. We have an idea of the direction that we want to go in, but the reality is like this could blow up overnight, or we could pump loads of money into it and it doesn't materialize into anything. Like we still don't know what it is, and I think we're just more than happy to kind of assume that we're somewhat smart and competent people and have a rough idea on poker and content in general, especially our videographer, man. Like he is just insanely intelligent when it comes to he's basically been working in the gaming scene for years, and he just understands Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, the whole charade, if you will.
That's valuable.
The only thing that I think could lead to our downfall is ego. That's the only thing I could really see causing friction and arguments. Not necessarily arguments, but things blowing up more than they need to in any situation. Is the only thing I could see would be ego-driven arguments, and fortunately, touch wood, until now we haven't had any of those. And I would like to think that we would be smart enough to not have those. But at the end of the day, we've got 4 highly competitive people all trying to be involved in the same project. And by the way, Tumlock, if you're watching this, Tumlock's our videographer. We're not saying that you're not highly competitive either, but we got the 3 guys living in a grindhouse, and there's a lot of competition going on. They're playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars each week. They live together, so they've already got their like own dynamic. And me and Tumlock are kind of being brought into this for reasons outside of poker. And we're trying to fit into the dynamic that they already have going on. So it's going to take a bit of time to like adjust and just get to know each other in that way, and just see how it goes.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I would just say prepare. It sounds like disagreements have to happen. They will. And so hopefully you're ready for them when they do. But I agree, like, it seems too early to worry about, because you don't even know what all the business responsibilities will be 6 months from now.
Exactly.
To say like, okay, you're in charge of this, you handle this, you make decisions about this. Just right now, it's about growth.
I think the most interesting thing for me, just from like a business point of view, is going to be when we're all on like a level playing field, if you will. Like, is everyone going to be pulling their weight when it comes to the tedious nitty gritty stuff? And that's going to be something that needs to be communicated. Is that going to be outsourced? If so, that's fine. Like, I think a lot of us, especially as poker players, think of things in terms of dollar EV and hourly. Am I going to begrudge someone whose hourly is $500 an hour to do something that we could outsource for $50 an hour? No. Like, and in the same way, I wouldn't. If they said to me, "Oh, Henry, don't do commentary on Monday," I'm like, well, why not? I earn X amount. Yeah, you need to do this. Well, can't we outsource that as a company? That would cost us like, 10% of what my salary would be to do so and so.
There was a period in my life, and I think a lot of poker players' lives, where we thought about our hourly way too often, and it actually stood in the way of living life, because evaluating everything through the lens of, okay, well, I'm going to miss these games. Is it worth $800 to me to go out and see my friends for an hour? And then commute 30 minutes and commute 30 minutes back, and like then not be able to play for the next hour because I've had a drink. And you start to if you look at every life decision as a financial decision, then there's a lot of life decisions, especially if you're successful, seem like you should pass on them. And then you look back and you've passed on a lot of things that you wish you had done.
A lot. I hope a lot of people that watch this at home listen to what you just said, because it's something that I've almost. I guess people all reach a certain point in their life when they want to listen to things like what you just said. Because I've definitely preached that to a lot of my friends before, and they're like, "No, I need to get to the Bellagio."
Yep.
And then like 3 months later, we'll look back on a trip, and the boys were like, "Wow, I didn't even see this," and like, "Henry, you did this, this, and this." And this isn't me like trying to like say anything, but like I said, like, life EV is what you end up with when you're 70. Sure, dollar EV is important, but for me, I'm all about. At least I am now. I definitely used to be very hourly driven. It would be like, no, I need to grind. And I would pass up on a lot of opportunities. And I think maybe I've learned the lesson faster than other people. I don't know. But I'm at a stage now where I'm just like, I've been to so many cities, so many casinos. Do you know how many times I've been to Barcelona? Been to Barcelona 4 times, and I couldn't even tell you what Barcelona looks like. Because all I could tell you is what the casino is like. And for me, that is insane. Like, I know there are people whose dying wish is to visit Barcelona. And for me, as a human being who has been there 4 times, but I can't even tell you, what the city is like I don't know. I'm just like, at that stage now, I'm just like, that's ridiculous, Henry. Like, you need to. So, the point I was trying to make is I've had these conversations with some friends who, for reasons of their own, whether it's ego, whether it's just, mate to mate, friend to friend, don't necessarily want to listen to what I have to say about that subject. But I see it and they're like, I need to grind. And I'm like, you don't need to grind, man. Like, you like, I respect it, but trust me, taking a day off to go and do this life experience that you are never going to forget, and I promise you, you're never going to forget it, is worth so much more than the $100 hourly you're making in the 10-20 at the Bellagio, or the 6 big blinds, whatever it is. Like,
I think
you can't take it with you.
I think you're often right. to kind of play devil's advocate in part. I mean, so first of all, I've definitely been guilty of focusing too much on work and hourly for longer periods of time than I haven't. And even still, like now, it's not so much about hourly, but it's with when you run two businesses and play poker and have a family. It just like it's almost every day something feels extremely important, and I'm just like I have to take care of this. I have to focus on this. I have to figure this out. So I still do that. I think for me personally, like it's not as important to me at this point in my life, or it hasn't been up to this point in my life to see places as it is to you. And so if like I go to, if I went to Barcelona, which I haven't been, and played for 10 days in a casino and didn't see the city, I would kind of laugh. I'd be like, it's pretty silly, but I'm not really sad that I wouldn't be that sad about it. And so it could be that some of your friends, maybe to them, it wouldn't be an experience that they never forget, or maybe it would be, but maybe that's not worth that much to them. And what's worth more is what they're doing. So that, and probably the reality is somewhere in between. And maybe, some of the time they should be going and experiencing things more. And some of the time they are right to for what's important to them to be focusing on what they're doing. I mean, I would say that even with your own goals, and this is definitely not advice because I'm not sure I believe it, but another way to look at it is, what if your goal is to have kind of the lifestyle that poker provides you and to travel and to have experiences, it could be argued that spending 3 years doing nothing but trying to make as much as you can, and then put yourself in positions where investments can snowball and kind of support you going forward, then you can over the next 8 years actually have more time to be doing those things that you love. And again, not saying that you should do that, because I don't even it's just a counter argument. I don't know that I believe it.
No, it's a great one. It's a great one. And again, it kind of goes back to another lesson where it's sometimes very easy to get caught up in your own world and think that your truth is the truth and that everyone should be following it. Because as soon as you said that, I was like, fuck, I did it again. Because it has been something that has been said to me, not in a malicious way, but my friends and people that are close to me have also said, Henry, sometimes you do realize that just because, something that you value or you believe to be true isn't necessarily my truth. And I appreciate you for like kind of playing the devil's advocate there, because it is true. Not everyone has the same goals, beliefs, systems, truths in life, and for me to just be like, oh, bro, thank you, Phil. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
And the hourly thing as well. Things that could like snowball over the next 8 years. The only thing that I would say about like going all in for 3 years and then it potentially, giving you more opportunities over the following like 8 years. Something like for me from like a childhood point of view and just like my family background is I kind of fear falling into that trap. And the reason I fear falling into that trap is because I've seen it in my parents. I've seen it in my grandparents. And I think a lot of us, especially people my age, I would like to think once you have a family of your own, you kind of realize just how much you do and you sacrifice for your children. But the reality is that my parents had dreams once upon a time, and they sacrificed their dreams to work to provide for their family.
Yeah.
In the hopes that eventually the sacrifice and the work they put in would give them time to travel. And the reality is now my parents are in their mid-50s and they haven't.
Yep.
And that's always kind of been like that fear in the back of my head is that, okay, if I do just grind, if I really just like knuckle down and just give my all for like 2-3 years, then I'll be happy. Then I'll have these opportunities to do this and the other. And it's just like, Henry, mate, you could get hit by a bus tomorrow, like tomorrow's not guaranteed. And that's kind of, maybe I'm living the Bill Perkins approach to life of die with zero, like way too early.
Nothing wrong.
But I that's just me.
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with his approach. He's thought about it a lot and is super intelligent. And well, I mean, I haven't read his book. I've heard him talk about it a lot, and it makes sense. It is definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let me. Well, I can speak from experience that I mean, my son's almost 3, and
Yeah.
you know,
It's
you have
growing
a lot.
fast, man.
You have a lot. I know you have a lot less freedom, and to be honest, I mean, I have a lot more freedom than most parents would because you can afford to like go somewhere and bring a babysitter with you to like watch them while you can experience things. Like there are a lot of things that I and so it can be really limiting for travel, especially. But
Yeah.
yeah, kind of living your dreams, so to speak. So that makes sense. What this is. I don't know how to ask it in a way that doesn't sound like a really big question, but it's a conversation. What are the 3 to 5 things that are most important to you that you kind of want from life? These are things that can be like your own health, relationships, financial success to a certain level, or financial success to another level, like where a number of other things. What's most important to you?
And so, as always, probably not going to give you like a straight answer, and apologize because the reason it is like I'm as well as you know, and as like I'm in this like rediscovery phase at the moment. I feel like I've only just woken up in life, and I've just been in like autopilot for the last 25 years. And this year for me, since my dad passed in September, was just like last year was just like a massive wake up, like self-realization. And I'm being very kind to myself, but at the same time, there have definitely been things that I've given priority to that I kind of regret giving too much priority to, and certain things have like fallen aside. Like my relationship with my family is something that like I really want to continue working on, because there was definitely times where I could have given my parents a call and I didn't, because I was like grinding at 6 a.m. Or like friendships and that. So I am still money driven. Money is very important. To start answering your question finally, freedom has always been a really important thing for me, almost to the degree where I've given it way too much importance. And I don't know why. Like I need to speak to a therapist or something. Like I feel like it's so money, freedom. Finally, health has come into the equation. I smoked and drunk, and in my earlier years, hung out with the wrong crowds and did things to my body that I regret doing. And I quit smoking, what, like 8 months ago, basically since my dad like passed away. And it was just like, I used to always laugh at the people that would be talking about their bodies, their temple. And then I was just like, actually, your body, you only get one, and it carries this thing around, the brain around your conscious and your actual being around. So you might as well look after it. Still working on that, because it's not a discipline or anything that I've had in my life up until now. So like changing habits is, tough. So yeah, money, freedom, health, and I think most importantly for me, and has been something that has always been like important, is just true deep relationships with the people that I surround myself with. Like I've never wanted to be that on the surface kind of guy when it comes to the people that I associate myself with. I think that reflects a lot in my work, and it reflects a lot in just the way I kind of carry myself, is that I don't mind getting deep and personal with people, because like I've been there, trust me, I've had dark days and I've had good days. And if someone wants to confide in me about anything, like I don't judge when it comes to being vulnerable and stuff. So yeah, money, freedom, health, and relationships. I can't really think of a fifth one that I'm giving like way too much importance. I think money and career kind of like for me go hand in hand.
A little
Maybe
bit
they
though,
don't for other
because
people.
you talked earlier about respect from your peers or from people who know you only as a commentator. Like that's different than money, and it does maybe it's not as important, but it's something.
Okay. Then yeah, I mean then career would
Yeah.
definitely be like the fifth one. Like I've always yeah, like I've never made money or until like recently I haven't made money through like passive income. Like my career has always
Mhm.
been money. If I've got money, it means I'm doing well in my career.
Yeah.
If I don't, then I'm so I've kind of always like put those two hand in hand, but it does make sense now that you say that that like career wise um there is obviously a pretty distinct difference.
Yeah.
But
So
career would be fifth.
money. Okay. And was there an order or not particularly?
Oh, so what we got? So we got money, freedom, health, relationships, career. Whatever order I put these in live on air, I will be scrutinized
Of
for.
course. Well,
So-
there's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. Um, I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I think like if I think about myself, I think kind of my um, family is most important to me.
yeah,
My health is second,
yeah,
and then kind of from there it gets started. Then probably financial and like the last three are kind of close to each other: financial, relationships, friendships.
yeah.
Maybe that's it. But I don't usually live that way. I usually am spending most of my time on financial success.
Yeah.
And I am usually, I mean, basically, I like my health changes a lot, and it's just that I don't prioritize it often, and I don't have the discipline or in that area, or haven't found it. So, like, I'm not. What I'm wondering, and what I'm hoping to get at with you is like, I know that I'm not living by
Yeah.
what's most important to me. Like, I'm not living the right way, for how I should be.
100%.
And I'm
Yeah.
curious if you are closer to doing that. And before you rank them, or maybe you don't have to, what stands out to me is that like none of those five to me really speak to traveling and having those experiences. It sounds to me like the things that are important to you, financial success, career, freedom, those three are all you should be grinding.
Mm.
Now, obviously, the relationships, that's different. But
Yeah.
how do you how would you describe, because from earlier conversation it seems like the travel, the experiences, they are important to you. um, I guess what would you call that, and how does that make the list of your priorities?
Yeah, I mean, bang bang, Phil Galfond. Just quote. I think maybe it's just my way of interpreting those things, or my definition. And um, so money for me has always kind of meant career. And money and freedom have always kind of gone hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like if I've got money, I've got the freedom to travel and explore and do things that I want to do, have experiences that I want to have. Um, it, if I had to rank them in terms of what I wish the order was, it would be relationships first, because
Mhm.
I've definitely become more and more uh, estranged with friends and family. By the way, like I am I am close with my family and friends, but I'm not. I barely see them because I'm always traveling. So that's what I mean when I say like I'm disconnected from them. I don't get
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see them that much, or I'm not as close. We still speak, on a regular basis and whatnot, but you can get lost in this world, and it can be a bit of a rabbit hole that you fall into, because you overtake people at such a fast pace from a very young age. Like when you look at real world earning potentials in poker, you can really overtake people at such a fast pace, and people get left behind. So in an ideal world, I would like to. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want the people that I love and care about to be left behind, and I feel like a lot of them have been, because I've been so focused on catching up with everyone else myself that I've forgotten about them. Then it would be health. So it'd be relationships, so family, friends, health. Then I guess career and money again kind of go hand in hand for me, and so does freedom. So maybe I've kind of got my definitions of those things skewed. I think the reality is the way I'm actually living life is money first. I've always panicked whenever I once I get below a certain threshold, I can be very chaotic and frantic if I've invested money in something and it's like not going my way. So it's definitely something I need to work on. I'm currently like, it's like money, career, freedom, relationships, health at the moment.
Yeah.
If I had to be like truthful.
Yeah.
That'd probably be it. That'd be the order that it's in. Yeah.
It's important to keep in mind, like with money and career, there's like, I feel like there's a good level where, if your level's too low, you're not making enough, you're not trying enough, you're going to get anxious and stressed. If you're trying too much, you're stressed in a different way and you don't have time for anybody. And then in between, maybe you don't have as much time as you would if you just work less, but actually you're happier, you're more content, you're not stressed, and you're giving more to your relationships and everybody else. So it doesn't always have to be one or the other, but kind of finding the right balance, I think.
Yeah, I mean that's the answer to life, right? Isn't it right there? I've read the books, I've heard the sayings of the ancient philosophers, about balance and whatnot, and it's just it's tough. I again, I'm sure there are people that have thought that I've got it all together and wow, Henry lives a very balanced lifestyle. I don't.
No.
I don't. Sure, it's the same with you.
Oh yeah.
It's just so difficult because you take responsibility on the things that you do. For me personally, I think one of my maybe not bad traits, but something I need to work on is that I never want to let anyone down. And sometimes, I kind of unintentionally let down those that are most important to me, like friends, family, or close relationships, because like I'll get a last minute, call from a friend, like whatever, there's like this going on and let's do this. And I'm okay, well, I need to go and do that. And it can, I don't know. I've always been a bit of a people pleaser, and I think it's reflected in my work as well. And I think it's one of the things that I actually struggled with. It was one of the leading kind of causes of like my depression as well. Was that I was just always trying to please everyone, and sometimes, in order to find that balance, you have to learn to say no. You have to learn to like not worry about offending people and letting people, not even necessarily letting people down, but just like sticking to your truths in order to find a better balance overall.
Yeah. No, I agree. I one thing I want to say just about my experience and what's worked well for me, because I think you've kind of beat yourself up for it thus far, is I've always jumped around from passion to passion. And sometimes I'm interested in something and not interested in something else. And I put all of my energy into that. And then it changes and I move on. And I've found that I work best that way when I'm never really making myself work on something. I'm working on something because I really want to. Yeah. And that does just change. That works for me. I'm kind of an all or nothing person. And so I rarely have balanced. Maybe if you look at my year on the whole, it's somewhat balanced, but month to month or week to week,
Yeah.
usually like all in on something. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. I think it depends on you and what works for you. But I wouldn't necessarily try to kind of beat that out of yourself if it seems to work.
Yeah, again, it's a case of you being the present you, and my way, or just people's way in general, is to look at your current success and your present success and just not realize the last 15 years or the
Yeah.
last 18 years or whatever it is that have gone into it. And it's very easy to think, oh, well, the reason, I'll use you as an example, Phil is successful is because from day one, he has had structure, discipline. He's just known exactly what it is that he wanted to do. And again, for me, that's just like another pleasant reminder. I'll call a spade, is that I have friends like yourself that I'm like, Henry, all of these people who are telling you that they do the same thing that you do, so you don't necessarily need to be as hard on yourself. And I think that's just been me from a very early age. Like, I remember, looking at like Cambridge and Oxford University in the UK when I was like 12.
Yeah.
I was like I said, ran like my own business, like buying and selling sweets, because my mum said that she couldn't afford an Xbox. If you want to do it, you need to like get so. So I've always been very like, so what I'm looking for, like, I've put myself on a very high pedestal. I used to tell myself when I was 16, to tell my friends and family I'd be a millionaire by the time I'm 25.
Right.
All of these types of things. And it's very easy to then look at what you currently have and just be like, okay, well, all of these things that you thought you were going to do, or you said that you were going to do, you haven't actually achieved them yet. So basically, you're either a liar or you're just, bit of a letdown kind of thing. And it could be really detrimental on your mental health and the way you approach life. And that's why I said this year has been like, at least I feel, and you've probably realized it as well, that I'm a lot kinder to myself. And I mean, I know you've said today that I'm being a bit too harsh on myself, but I feel in comparison to like 2 years ago, this is, I'm being very kind to myself, because I don't know. I know deep down what I'm capable of. And when I don't follow through on stuff, or like put in the effort that I know I can put in, it's just like, well,
Yeah. No, I know.
Pull your shit together.
I know. I've done a lot of that myself. Yeah, I think you have been more kinder to yourself than in the past, but still, I mean, I don't know. I've been hard on myself my whole career. It's served me well.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world. And I guess kind of in general, the thought I have from talking to you is like, give yourself, past, like, observe yourself with less judgment. And, like, if you want to work a certain way, try it. Like, if you're observing yourself jump from thing to thing and you're seeing that you're stressed and anxious and sad, then then you should think about that and learn from that. But if you see yourself jump from thing to thing and you think you're not supposed to do that because it doesn't sound right or other people don't do that, that's the wrong way to look at it. Just kind of observe. And I'd also say, it seems like you've come to some realizations this year and kind of have a bigger perspective, but let yourself keep, like, I'm not saying anything you said sounds wrong to me, but keep an open mind, because I think we just keep learning, Yeah. Anyways, those are the thoughts I just had. I also don't want to, I really, I'm like already regretting. I don't want to be like we're having a conversation as friends, and I'm 10 years older than you, but I think that we can all learn from each other. And I definitely don't think that I have all the answers or anything close to it. So
No, I've always appreciated that about you, to be honest. Something I really want to say when you were talking about just being like kind and compassionate to yourself, it's really funny how friend to friend, you'll tell me to be kind and compassionate and be more patient with myself, and I'll say the same to you or to the viewers at home. But then when it comes to ourselves, you know, we could preach it to other people, to our friends and family and people we care about, but we struggle with ourselves. And one of the things that has helped me a lot this year, especially when it came to like negative self-talk, and anything that I do, whether it's poker, projects, anything, is imagine calling in the 5-year-old version of yourself and then talking to them the way that you are currently talking to yourself about a certain thing. And that for me has really helped me, because some of the things that I've said to myself in the past about poker, about a sport, say, you misplay a hand and you bust a tournament, or it costs you X amount of dollars, and you just, in your head, you're just attacking yourself just like viciously. Now imagine talking to the 5-year-old version of yourself in that way. You wouldn't do it. But what's the difference? What, just because you're 25, you're 30, you're 35 now? Like, you wouldn't do that to your son. You wouldn't do that to your friend or family. So why would you do it to yourself?
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here continuously preaching about being kinder to yourself, but it makes a difference. It really does. And in poker, in such a competitive environment, and in an environment where it can feel like a very dog eat dog world, it can get lonely out there, and sometimes you can be your only friend, especially at the table. Like, if like at the table, you're your only friend, and if you become your own enemy, then you don't stand a chance, because you're already outnumbered. So just trying to be a friend to yourself, especially when you're grinding, whether or not you use it in other areas of life. But I'm assuming a lot of people that watch this are going to be poker players. Try and keep that in mind. I personally have it saved in my notes. It's just don't be an enemy to yourself. Try and be your best friend, at least whilst you're at the tables, if anything.
Yeah, at minimum. No, that's very, very well said. You know what's funny? I feel like everybody I've talked to has dealt with negative self-talk, and as whether they've worked on it or not, it's something they struggle with, and like, I understand all the detrimental effects. I've never done that. No, never. And I don't know if it's environmental, or I was just lucky that I'm not wired that way. Like, I always lack confidence, but I'm never. So I'm hard on myself in the sense that if I didn't play well, I know I didn't play well, and I want to do better.
Yeah.
And even if I do play well, I question, like, oh, did I play well? Is that person better than, like, I never am just, I always am questioning myself, and usually from a place of self-doubt, but not from a place of self-criticism. I don't know.
That's really interesting. I mean, human beings just in general.
Yeah.
So you struggle, or you've struggled with self-confidence, not just in poker, you're talking in like communication and relationships in the past, in business.
Everything, yeah.
But you've never criticized yourself.
I mean,
that's really interesting.
No, not in the way of self-talk. I'll know that I've made a mistake, or
of course, of
be
course,
upset
from a
that
constructive,
I made a mistake. Yeah, but I never say to myself, "Phil, you're so stupid." Or
fantastic.
So I think we could probably do this for 5 more hours, but
probably,
but let's not. So the idea behind this, this went in I didn't know how this was going to go. This went in a different direction than I kind of thought it would. I thought we'd land on, you're trying to decide where to put your energy, but you've decided where to put your energy right now. You've decided what's, relatively important to you. You're not aiming to be the best in the world. You're not trying to maximize, your hourly and financial success at all costs, certainly. And you're working on this business, and experiencing life. And you didn't, we didn't reach that. You were already there. But then we did talk about the business, which was interesting. I wasn't expecting to do that. And, but the idea was to be not that you leave this with, you come to me with a problem and leave with a solution, because that's rarely going to happen in the span of a couple hours. And I certainly don't have anything close to all the answers, but also, hopefully in talking through it to help some people watching navigate through some decisions they're making or kind of self-reflect. But also, people watching might have experience in some of these areas or might have input to give you or me. And so my goal kind of with this is both to kind of help people who are watching figure some things out and help myself and the guest, in this case, you, figure some things out, not just during the course of the show, but after. And so I'm really interested to see what people have to say, both in terms of, anything that they thought about themselves, anything where they think one of us is going astray or needs some wisdom of theirs. I welcome it all, and I'm curious to see how it goes. And thank you again for doing it. I wish you the best of luck with Overbet Express. I'm excited to I'll check it out very soon. I actually hadn't yet, and I'm excited that to see what it turns into, because I really love the idea of the behind the scenes, actually getting to know what poker life is like. And I mean, in doing so, also life. I mean, the more like every year and every experience I have, the more I learn that poker is unique, but life is life and people are people. And like you were saying, things that you learn in poker can apply elsewhere and vice versa. And so, I'm really, I'm excited that you're doing it, and props to you and the team, and I look forward to seeing more.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Just to give you direct feedback, even, I mean, you're pretty harsh on yourself as well. Sometimes I feel like you don't understand. Oh, I guess you do understand. You do give a lot of wisdom, but direct feedback would be that it definitely has not necessarily solved things that I came in with, but the conversation we had today and some of the topics we mentioned have definitely reopened some of the areas that I was maybe neglecting or had kind of put to the side, and as I open my mind up again to those things, which I obviously thank you for. And I'd also like to second that sentiment as well, because I think a lot of people can be intimidated when it comes to, watching something like this and then fear potentially reaching out. For me personally, whenever I record something like this, I always like to add to anyone watching, there's anything we've discussed today that you just would love to talk about or add something, when it comes to my DMs, they've always been open, and it goes the same for your viewers, Phil. So if anyone has resonated with anything, or has just a couple of words of wisdom, or even just wants to say hi and say thank you, whatever it is, feel free to message me. And I would love to hear what people think about this, because for me, it's I don't know. I feel like every time I speak to you, Phil, I walk away just on cloud nine. But maybe that's just because I'm
very kind.
fortunate
Thank
enough
you.
to call you call you a friend.
Well, I value your friendship too, and I always enjoy our conversations. And I'm eager to have more off air just about the business. I'd love to hear more about it. And anytime you want to throw things my way, please do.
Would love to. Yeah, definitely. I will hold you to that. As soon as we get the W Cube grind out the way with, we have more time to kind of focus on a direction where we want to go. I'd love to get your input for sure.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Henry. I know I really did. And we covered a lot of good stuff, I think, in my humble opinion. First and foremost, if you're interested in coming on this podcast in this specific structure, because you're at a crossroads in your poker career, check out the link in the description below. And you don't have to be as well known as Henry. You don't have to be known by anybody. You just have to be willing to answer some questions and come on this podcast on video and audio and talk about your career. Otherwise, another thing that I want to hear from you on, I know I mentioned at the top of the video that I wanted to get feedback on this format and ideas for other formats. So this podcast, I think, is going to come out, a bit, I don't know, somewhere around 2 hours. And actually that involves editing out a lot of the conversation. We spoke for over 3 hours. A lot of the conversation that was cut out was not necessarily about Henry's decision-making in his career and his journey thus far, but about just business, running a business, because as you've now learned, Henry's focus is on his new business right now. And I've run a couple of businesses now, a few actually, for longer than I can remember. And so we had some conversations about his decisions and kind of his vision for his business. I talked about some of my experiences in business. And we took it out because, 3 hours is a really long time, and it didn't really necessarily fit the arc of Henry's journey. But I enjoyed the conversation a lot. And I want to know if you'd like to see it, because I think what we could do is just release that, kind of chop it up, chop together the pieces that we cut out and just release that as its own video, not necessarily, I don't know if it'd be a podcast episode or something else, but just kind of more of this conversation, slightly on a different topic. So yeah, let me know. Let me know if you have any thoughts on a good way to release it as well. And I think that's it. Thank you for watching or listening all the way through at this point, or for fast forwarding to the very end for some odd reason. To my very first podcast episode. I sincerely hope you enjoyed it and are looking forward to more of them. I'm looking forward to more of them. And I'll see you next time. This is Phil Galfond, and this is the Phil Galfond podcast, I suppose.